I'm pretty sure that you are part of a synthesized electronic music robot chorus.
I am the exact opposite. I am the indigenous instrument known as the didgeridoo.
Oh, a didgeridoo.
I thought that was
nice.
Pretty clear.
Well, I also got distracted by the dog getting distracted by the sounds.
Dogs are into didgeridoos.
Dogs are into
didgeridoo. It's a didgeridoo. Anyway.
That's Sean Patton making the didgeridoo sound.
And my didgeridoo here is Caitlin Cook.
Yep, I'm a didgeridoo.
Queen of 5 words.
And you're listening to 5 Words, the podcast where we have on a friend. Or no, we haven't. Well, they're mostly friends. I'm going to stop talking now.
Sometimes they're not friends till after the podcast.
That's true.
There you go.
Sometimes I don't know the person that well.
That's a fact.
Because Sean does most of the booking. But we have on a guest who's going to tell us the story. But before they tell us the story, they tell us 5 keywords of the story. And then we try and extrapolate what the story is based on those 5 words and what we know about our guest. And then they tell us the real story.
That's how it goes. So now you know I do most of the booking. So email me at
5 Words Podcast.
No, don't give away the real email. I was about to give away a totally fake email address. Like email me at
didgeridog.com.
didgeridog.org.
.org.
That's
not even the email address.
/ 5 words. There you go. But straight up, this week I went with a didgeridoo in person. Oh, Caitlin.
What?
Where if your dad was Australian, you'd be a didgeridoo.
Yeah.
How about that?
I mean, I guess technically I'm a cook, so I'm somewhere related to Captain James Cook way down the line.
Bam.
I don't know.
I went with that because it's across the world from where this week's guest hails from. The Bronx, the Prince of the Bronx.
Oh, no.
That's Squeaky Dog. The Prince of the Bronx, Vladimir Caamaño. He's the best.
He is someone that I didn't know that well, but I really enjoyed talking to him. We had a great conversation, and he's pretty cool. Now we're friends.
Yeah. You've seen him do stand-up on Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah.
You've seen him, he had a guest role on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and you've also seen him in the short-lived CBS police drama.
Yeah.
Tommy.
Yeah.
Vladimir Caamaño. Check him out. He's a fucking hilarious guy, but also just like one of those people who you can tell is going to make it big one day.
Absolutely. I just saw that episode that he's in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And now that we're friends, I was like, hey, that's my buddy. And he was very funny in it.
There you go.
And he's very funny in this podcast.
Hell yeah. So check him out. Give it a listen. And if you are in New York City listening to this right now, tomorrow night, you can go to the Sultan Room in Bushwick.
Yeah.
Some people call it West, or some people call it East Williamsburg. Fuck that. It's West Bushwick, if anything. But that's just Central Bushwick.
Yeah.
The Sultan Room, upstairs, you can see Caitlin and Shane Torres and Tom Takar and Phoebe Bottoms and the Lucas brothers. Mm-hmm. And
you're going to remember all the guests.
That's all I can remember.
Dina Hashem.
Robert
Dean.
Dean.
And Tommy McNamara.
See? There you go. I saved the best for the last third.
Yeah. But basically, any Wednesday, if you want to see some live comedy and you're in New York and you want to be safe, we have a safe, socially distanced rooftop show at the Sultan Room. And I'm going to stop playing fetch with this dog. Or I'm going to start because we're going to end this intro.
Whoa, see you later. I'm speaking didgeridoo.
Enjoy. And that was didgeridoo for enjoy the episode. Bye.
Vladimir.
What's up?
How are you, bud?
Good, my man. Good to see you.
You look healthy.
Well, my fiance takes good care of me, man. She makes sure I have my salad. We drink filtered water.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
I do not do this for Sean.
I did not know you were a betrothed man or a soon-to-be betrothed man. Or as betrothed count when you say that towards people who are engaged. I don't fucking know.
I don't know either, and I think the word betrothed is like a Game of Thrones, like medieval times phrase, right? Betrothed.
Yeah, that's an old-fashioned word.
Yeah, but so it almost sounds more serious. Like, is he engaged or is he betrothed? Which one is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like you come with a dowry or something.
Yeah. He's betrothed.
Betrothed. I mean, I feel like it's just a word people use when they want to sound smarter. Like I
Hell
just did.
Bro. Hell yeah, bro.
Fucking, we've betrothed. This podcast has been betrothed to the internet, for some time now.
The good news is, as a comedian, you get away with it because it's like it shows your vocabulary and your technique.
I mean, this is true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how have you been, man?
I think like the rest of us, I've been better. I've been better. I was so happy to find that phrase, "I've been better," because it just fits perfectly. I've been better.
Yeah. I don't think we've had a guest or talked to anyone so far who's been like, man, this is just awesome.
We got to get the CEO of Purell on here.
I know, and the thing is, like, I had a buddy of mine. I saw him. He said, "Hey, how you doing?" I said, "I've been better." And he was like, "Oh my God, this is great. This is awesome." And I kind of looked at him. I was like, maybe there's a possibility where he's right. That's how he feels.
Yeah.
Or the other possibility is like it's a enormous amount of denial.
Yeah.
and this guy's just going through it.
I mean, I feel like even like Caitlin said, the CEO of Purell. I feel like even that guy, like, or girl, we don't know, right, Caitlin? Sorry.
Definitely not a girl.
We don't know. We don't know. She might be 13 years old.
We don't know. We don't know.
We don't
know.
We don't know. We don't know.
They might even like maybe that like in March, April, they were like, "This is awesome, rolling in it, squirt, squirt, sanitize." But I bet even by now they're like, "All right, this is fucked up. I wish that I'd sell the company if it would make this end. I'd go public."
We can get back to regular work.
Yeah.
It's almost like the Klan getting mad at somebody for using the N-word too much.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, easy now. I like using it as much as anybody, but let's not.
Let's not get egregious with it.
Tone it down here.
Egregious, another word people use to sound so. It was egregious, the betrothment. It was egregious.
He was egregiously betrothed.
That doesn't make sense, and I like it.
Wait, so when are you getting married?
So we were initially supposed to get married September of this year, and we postponed until June of 2021.
Are y'all going to do it in New York?
We're going to do it in West Orange, New Jersey, bro.
Holy shit.
Wow.
Wedding capital of the Northeast?
Is it?
No.
Is it?
I don't think so.
Sean, you know what? Sean, that's what makes you a funny guy, man, is because, like, I watch you on stage, and I think that's what makes you funny is that you'll tell a tall tale, completely absurd, and the audience is kind of going, I wonder if that actually happened.
Yeah.
It's like,
commitment.
He does this to me sometimes where he'll just
right.
Have a story, and I sometimes can tell, but it's pretty rare. I'm gullible, and he's believable. You're
completely in it, bro. You're completely in it.
I take that as a compliment for both of you. So thank
you. It is.
Secondly, like I do that. I will from time to time fuck with people, but the intent is to like I just did to you. I said, West Orange, wedding capital of the Northeast. You said, really? I said no, because I was fucking with you. But I've done that exact thing to someone before, just with a different set of not talking about West Orange, talking about other things. And I'll tell them immediately that I'm fucking with you. And they'll be like, man, why do you always lie to me? And I'm like, well, that's not lying. Lying is telling someone, like if I'd have been like, West Orange, New Jersey, capital of weddings for the Northeast. And you'd have been like, really? And I'd have been like, yes. And then never corrected myself.
So now I have two questions for you.
Go for it.
You could jump in as well, because the question applies to all of us. But Sean, so when you write, because here's what I find. I can take flights of fancy on stage because the immediacy of the moment, I'll just vomit it out. But for some reason on paper, it's 10 times harder. I don't know if it's because of the speed at which speech, thought and speech come out versus thought and writing that I just find tedious. Is it the same for you, or like even on paper you'll just kind of go crazy?
I mean, It's yes. I like to sort of like, or I push myself to do that. You know what I mean? Like I really force myself. Something that's helped me with writing lately is doing it and I read this somewhere. This wasn't like my original thought, but I started doing it. I applied it. Is I just do it in short bursts instead of like sitting down and being like, I'm going to write for the next 4 hours. I'm like, I am going to write for the next 30 minutes. And then after that, we'll see. But 30 minutes uninterrupted. And usually in that 30 minutes, something will come to me and then I'll set an alarm and everything. And it'll go off and I'll fucking be like, all right, but I'm gonna eat something real quick, or I'm gonna take a dump, or I'm gonna go for a walk, or I'm gonna grab a coffee. And when I'm done with that, I'm gonna do another 30-minute burst. And doing that helps because you feel like, I don't know, it's something about kicking your brain into a place where it's like, you only got to do this for 30 minutes. And then when you're doing like, but you like it now. So you only got to do it for 30 more minutes. And then you look back and it's like, oh shit, all those 30 minutes added up to like 2.5 hours today. This is great.
It's almost like a high intensity interval training of
yeah.
writing.
Yeah.
You know, it's
like, you have to like, I don't know if it's like this for every person who does something creative, but I have to trick my brain into working a lot.
And then I love the shameful but loving nudge. Hey, it's only half an hour. Come on, man. Listen, it's only half an hour. Like we have to have that. It's crazy that we have to have that dialogue going on.
dude, something a therapist told me this like maybe 8 years ago, and it changed my fucking life. And it sounded really creepy at first, but they were like, she was like, you have to treat yourself, your brain, your psyche like a child, because it is just as fragile and just as susceptible and just as malleable, like everything. Even though you're an adult man, you have to talk to yourself like a child. You have to convince yourself. You have to like treat yourself like it's like a fucking 7-year-old or younger even. And if you shout at a kid, the kid's going to be fucked up from that. And we all do that to ourselves. We're like, you dumb fuck. You can't even sit down and work on comedy, the thing you love, you stupid asshole. And you don't realize it. But in those moments, you are fucking turning yourself, your own brain, into something that wants nothing to do with you. You're fucking, you know?
I love to see
damaging
you, I love to see you when you're trying to figure out if you're going to grab that pint of ice cream from the freezer or not.
Oh, dude, I don't even stop myself there. I let myself, because like I said, it's a child and children deserve ice cream. And right now I am all about that fucking, I had no clue how good Cherry Garcia was. I'm sorry, world. It's been around for decades. That shit's the best.
I think there's a strain named after it. That's how good that ice cream is. I think there's actual strain.
A strain?
Yeah, there's a strain of a flower named after it.
A Cherry Garcia?
Yeah.
I mean, I know there was a fucking legendary rock musician who named himself after it. That's how good it is. You know, I think the guy Jerry Garcia named himself after Cherry. Yeah, named himself after Cherry Garcia. That's how fucking good that ice cream is.
Oh, it's a Grateful Dead. I'm just finding out now. It's a Grateful Dead flavor.
Are there little bears on the label?
What?
The little Grateful Dead bears?
I think, but they're like picking cherries and.
Cute.
Are either of you into the Grateful Dead?
No.
So I just got into like when I was growing up, I was heavy into the Doors, and I slowly got into Led Zeppelin, and then about a year. Yeah.
Why does the Doors make so much sense? This moment you said the Doors, I'm like, I could see a young Vlad, fucking like.
Dude, I had the Jim Morrison T-shirt and everything, man.
Like, cause you grew up in the Bronx, right?
I grew up in the Bronx, bro. The Bronx and Washington Heights. So I was my aunt lived in the Bronx. I'm in the Heights, so I would go visit her like every weekend.
For those of you listening that do not know your New York geography, basically those are across the river from one another.
Yeah,
that's like the Bronx, and looks at Washington Heights, which is above Harlem.
Yes, correct. It's above Harlem, and then adjacent to the Bronx. So there's a bridge that I could walk. Even to this day, you could walk it across right to Manhattan.
When you were growing up, was there because we've talked about this on the podcast before. Every guest who's from New York, there just seems to be this like interborough like beef shit talking, but it's like siblings would fucking hate on each other, right?
Yo, I think that's a good example, man. And I think it's funny because it's like a weird version of ideology.
Yeah.
Because when you question it, it's almost like a lot of it is you'd be like, hey, blah 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 blah. Like I'm from the Bronx, baby. That's how we roll. I'm from the Bronx, and you kind of be like, okay, so can you elaborate on what that means? Like, yo, it's the Bronx, baby. You know, it's like so. Okay. So it's like passionate ideology, but you're looking for the manifesto. Like, so wait a minute. So where's the?
Right. Well, yo, man, representing Queens. You're like,
Queens.
exactly. What does that mean exactly though? You're like, You're like, I don't. I'm asking.
and then because then they all have the similar thing, which is like, it's like ride or die. It's going balls to the wall, hardcore. Every borough has that same ideology, but one borough thinks they have it more than the other one.
Yeah,
dude.
Then
they start fighting over who is more It's really a passion battle.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't no way Brooklyn's more passionate than me. Ain't no way. And then you start listing evidence. We have an actual zoo, okay, in the Bronx. Okay, we have actual zoo that's certified by the Wildlife Foundation. You got that in Queens? I don't think so.
like you as a citizen of the Bronx. Like, we're the reason the zoo's here because they knew Brooklyn holds it down. They knew the Bronx represents. That's why they brought the zoo here.
Like the minute Brooklyn got a basketball stadium, we were pissed in the Bronx. We were like, oh, see, now they're gonna brag about this for the next 80,000 rap songs. We were pissed about that because we hold on to the fact that we had Yankee Stadium. We got that.
And that though the Yankees are nicknamed the Bronx Bombers, they are not officially the Bronx Yankees, whereas the Nets are the Brooklyn Nets.
And these are the things that should have been argued by the Yankees staff at the germination of the team. Exactly, Sean. You hit the nail on the head.
It almost seems like if the five boroughs are siblings, it's like obviously Manhattan's the fucking popular one, the super successful one that all the other siblings, no matter whether they show it or not, deep down inside are just jealous. They all are trying to be more like Manhattan. They know they never 100% will be. Some of them take pride in that. Some of them are like Queens. I think Queens is the sibling that acts like it doesn't want to be Manhattan, but does everything Manhattan does. Builds fucking skyscrapers on the waterfront.
Yeah.
But Queens also has but it's like we have the U.S. Open, and we have we have the national tennis tournament.
The World's Fair was here. In 19, whatever it was. Neil deGrasse Tyson found himself here at the World's Fair.
Nas is from here.
Yeah.
And then like Brooklyn is like the sort of like was like when it was younger was way cooler. Now has gotten a little full of itself, and kind of talks the most shit. Definitely about we got Coney Island, we got the Nets, we got fucking Bed-Stuy, we got murals of every rapper that's ever set foot here. We've got a mural on some street corner.
It's tribal, bro. It's completely tribal.
Yeah,
it's passion, it's emotion. And remember back in the day, if you had like the wrong hat in the wrong neighborhood, people would look at you funny.
Yeah.
It's like when the Yankees had in Boston.
Yeah. It almost seems like the Bronx is the one sibling that's like older and just kind of doesn't really give a shit. It's like, fuck you. I set myself on fire sometimes. just to prove that I don't give a shit.
I love all of this. We always forget Staten Island.
No, we don't forget Staten Island. Staten Island is just the one that went to the army.
Nobody likes.
No, they like it. They like it, but they like it only in short bursts. Come around for Thanksgiving, the kid's birthday, but Jesus Christ.
Do you think the mayor like de Blasio or any mayor that's ever sat at the New York City mayor's desk, like showed favorites? Like, how a parent has favorites with his kids?
Mm-hmm.
And then he like de Blasio gets the report that morning of Bloomberg and he's like, God damn it, Staten Island again.
Sucks. Well, okay. Like you lived here all your life. Because the first mayor I think most of America of New York became aware of was Rudy Giuliani. Because he was mayor during 9/11, but also as a non-New Yorker coming up who now lives here, you hear that Giuliani's the mayor that like cleaned up the streets.
Yeah, Giuliani came in just on the tail end of Dinkins, and Giuliani was also fought against the mob.
Yeah, right.
So he had that reputation, and he's also the streets were riddled with crime. So and then when he came in, it was like that whole theory of like no broken windows or whatever, that whole thing, that whole crime philosophy. Yeah, so he came in.
Wait, what is that crime philosophy?
There's a guy, I forget his name. He was the police chief of New York at the same time Giuliani was mayor, and he had his philosophy of no broken windows. And essentially what that was is that you have to basically target every infraction. If it's a graffiti, if it's littering, whatever it is, every infraction has to be, it has to be like disciplined immediately. And that way,
don't let anything slide.
Don't let anything slide.
Right.
And Giuliani basically came in on a white horse, and he brought the crime rate down, and because before him it was Dinkins, then you had Koch. New Yorkers always blame any, like my father blames anything on whoever's in office. So like if parking is bad, it's de Blasio's fault. Whatever it is always.
Fucking Bloomberg, man. Fucking Bloomberg.
Like that. You had the same problem before this guy was mayor.
That was who was mayor when I moved here, was Bloomberg.
And I to be honest with you, Sean, I in retrospect, I take it for granted that I'm from New York, because when I think about other comedians coming to make it to be a stand-up comic, I forget the fact that they have to incur the cost of living when they move to New York. Being from here, I was able to stay with my dad and blah blah blah. Like that's a huge hit for a comic. To not have to really waiter around and pay your rent with a roommate. It's a 3-bedroom apartment. You're sharing a room with 3-4 of the roommates, whatever it is.
That's some story about that shit.
Kayla, where are you from?
I'm from LA.
Born and raised?
So it really was pretty similar. When I moved here, I moved from England. The cost of living was much higher there. So, yeah.
Oh, you were in London.
I know. There you go. Oh, when I moved here, I came from England.
I'm not
trying to brag. Just what happened.
I was in England, and then I betrothed myself to New York.
Egregiously betrothed myself.
Yeah, dude, like I that's what's really fucking funny about Rudy Giuliani is I didn't know this until I started, because he's a fucking lunatic now. But watching all these documentaries about the mafia, there's a lot of young Rudy Giuliani in there talking, and he has a massive lisp. Like a serious lisp. Yeah. And you're like, that's gotta sting a little bit more to the mafia to know that the guy who took him down has a lisp.
Well, that's hilarious, because for a fact it must have been like, basement, smoky, dimly lit conversations with all the mob bosses sitting down watching the news, and Giuliani's lisping away. We're gonna bring we're gonna bring these guys down, and the mob bosses are like, this guy. Hey, look, this guy, the cat. What's the name of that Looney Tunes cat? So Sylvester, this guy's gonna get us down. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, dude, when I first moved here, I lived in Bushwick. This ties up two things we're just not talking about. I moved into Bushwick. I lived with 3 people. My bedroom was not a bedroom. It was a fucking cubicle, straight up. Like the guy who had the lease on the apartment built walls, no insulation, only 1 ply of wall. And it didn't go all the way to the ceiling, and it didn't go all the way to the floor. It was maybe only like 2 inches off the floor, but it was a good foot off the ceiling. It was a cubicle, is what it was, and a bedroom stall. Yes, a bedroom stall. Yeah. No, we're gonna call it a bedroom stall.
Okay.
But it was also around the corner from that restaurant where the head of the Bonanno crime family was gunned down in the backyard in, I think the late 80s, early 90s, which sort of began to sow the seeds of dissent among the mob to where they were, fucking at war with each other. And then Giuliani was able to easily get in there and sort of tear everything apart. But I lived I was around the corner from that, where that guy lived, where that guy was murdered. I mean, it was also 15 years later, but it's like in Bushwick.
Because I got a taste of that when I moved to LA, man. And it's funny because I actually saw,
we saw you on Third Street.
Oh yeah,
that's right.
That's right where I grew up.
Right, and that's where I met Caitlin for the first time, and then I ended up having brunch at that same place the week after. And I got a taste of it when I moved to LA, man. Actually, when I met you guys, when I just moved to Los Angeles, and you know, I had all these dreams about like, I'm going to hit every spot. I'm going to do the Comedy Store. I'm going to do the blah, blah, blah. And then you start to get into it, man. And you're like, man, the Improv pays $13 a spot or $8 a spot, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And the spots are so infrequent, and you gotta pay rent. You know, you gotta make ends meet. Like, at least in New York, I feel like you can at least, although you're struggling, you can get more spots for your money, right? You can get more spots for your money.
Yeah.
In LA, man, it's like, not only are you trying to get spots, you're not making money off the spots, and it just feels like the waiting is so much longer in LA, man. Like, the waiting is so much harder. You know?
Well, I feel like LA doesn't like LA isn't about the actual stand-up. It's about everything that comes because of the stand-up, the podcasts, the parts in movies, the fucking in TV shows, the whatever. It doesn't reward the actual craft itself. Whereas New York's, I think, the other way around, where it's just kind of like, no, we're going to reward you for the actual act of doing stand-up. Like, you're actually doing a set. Like, and if whatever comes of it, great. But, you know, we're going to pay. Because, yeah, you can definitely, if you are motivated and good, you can make a living just off spot pay in New York.
In New York, yeah.
Like, yeah, you be doing 5 spots minimum a night. Like, you're doing spots every single night. But if you love it and you're good at crowd, because that's the problem with guys like me, and I think probably guys like you, like, I can do 5, 6, 7 spots a night. It's great. But, like, also for a lot of those spots, you're going to have to just do crowd work because you're going to be getting up, you know, at a fucking, you know, at a midnight at certain clubs where you're like, this audience is hammered.
Yeah, hammered, man.
They're not going to be able to focus on this 8-minute bit that I'm fucking working on. So I just got to talk to them. And sometimes that shit's fun, but sometimes it's like, what was the point of that? Yeah. Oh, okay. Then you get your fucking $40 or $75 or however much that club, because clubs also pay different too. That's the other, we've learned that. It's like,
yeah, dude, I did an outdoor show recently, and this guy, I don't know if he was homeless or not, but he literally walks by like the stage and he's like, you know, suck my, you know, and I was like, man, even in a pandemic, you gotta deal with hecklers. You know what I'm saying? Even in a like, COVID is not enough.
Oh yeah, dude. They're still.
Yeah, I mean, we did an outdoor show last night, and there was a dude that showed up wasted that heckled at the beginning, and it's just like, really, like, first live show in a while. And
this has happened in New York or LA? The
last
show
night
in New York.
Yeah, New York. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, you guys are in New York.
On the rooftop in Brooklyn. Yeah.
In Bushwick, yeah.
Wait, see what I'm saying? Like, here's the problem, man. Here's the problem I have. It's one thing to have a heckler ground level. You know,
yeah.
For example, if we're at Gotham, right? You know, they have excellent security. Gotham has like the best security, I would say, of any New York club. They'll get the guy out. You got a heckler on a roof,
yeah,
and it gets ugly, bro. Dog, like, you know, like, bad stuff can happen. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Luckily, he was chill. He was with my friend, and my friend just was like, "Man, I'm gonna take you downstairs," and he didn't fight it, but. It was very different from Zoom shows, because in Zoom shows you just get like heckled by someone that forgot to mute themselves or something by accident.
I feel like we don't know that he didn't just throw the guy off the roof. And I feel like in Bushwick, you can just throw a guy off the roof, not because it's like a tough neighborhood, just because everyone's so like walking on politically correct eggshells. And if someone fell off the roof, they'd be like, we don't know that story. Let's just
kind of yeah.
We don't know. He might, you know. That might have been their choice. Maybe he jumped, and we should respect that. You know? But then I feel like there'd be some people who would run up and be like, "Yo, and actually, no, we should see what the fuck just happened." Guy just, he's heckling? Never mind, it's fine.
Yeah, but
and then you find out, he was heckling?
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. You know, and like, I was thinking about this the other day, to your point, Sean and Caitlin. It's like, you could literally survive off spot pay and pick up the occasional weekend here and there.
Yeah.
You know, in the tri-state area, you go to Rhode Island, you go to blah.
Yeah.
And but it's a wake up call, man. That's why I feel for like working comics that were outside of New York.
Yeah.
I mean, even New York. I mean, New York is taking a huge hit.
Yeah.
But like, if you were a working comic outside of New York, man, like, yeesh.
I know.
Well, two things. One, I just checked really quick. I was wrong. It was Carmine Galante who was gunned down in 1979. So way off with time. Period. Had nothing to do with Judy Alley, but still around. It was Joe and Mary's restaurant in Bushwick. I did live around the corner from that still. But secondly, you're right. and you are someone who has like been through, I think, the entertainment machine in ways.
Oh yeah, bro. Yeah, bro.
Because you had a pilot, and shot that pilot. And I remember talking to you about it. You were gonna try and do it here, right?
I was gonna try to do it in New York, and then I learned about the intricacies of financing. And listen, man, I'm blessed to be able to go through what I went through, because you learn so much. Like, I learned about the financing of it, like, you know, the sound stages, the multicam, the writers. You know, if you have a showrunner who's based out of LA, in my case, it was Bill Lawrence. He's gonna want his writers around him, so he's gonna want to tape in LA. He's like, hey, I'm helping you out with the show. I got my writers. I'm gonna shoot here. But yeah, man, you learn about the business and you know, just. Wait, and then
Bill Lawrence, you said? I know Bill because I auditioned for a show called Undateable, and he was the creator. And
that's right. Chris D'Elia, Ron Funches,
and Brent Morin.
Brent Morin, Briga, another comic, Rick Glassman.
But he also created, what was the show that made him super popular? Scrubs.
Scrubs, Spin City.
Oh yeah. I love Scrubs.
Yeah, Scrubs is awesome.
And like, that's also a thing. Like, you like, it's such a, when you come up, even when you start to learn about how TV's done, you still think like, well, when I get there, we can make, you know, they'll make anything happen. It's like, nah, there's still practical shit that will just get in the way.
Yeah.
Like,
it's really a wake up call, man. And like, you learn something that even guys like Bill have to pitch every year. They have to pitch every year.
Yeah.
They go out every year and they get told no repeatedly. And it's like, if this guy's being told no, what are my odds? You know?
Yeah, man.
It's scary, man. And then you got to audition after audition, and you go into the audition rooms and you're like, oh, there's this many actors I'm competing with for these many roles, you know? And then you think about, they're only paying $13 at the Improv. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, it starts to dawn on you, bro.
Yeah.
You know,
fuck, what am I doing?
What am I doing?
Yeah.
Are you in New York now? You're back in New York?
I'm back in New York now, yeah, because I ended up proposing to my girl. And I had booked the series regular role on CBS for the show called Tommy. And that shot in New York. Yeah. So I moved back in August of last year. But I spent 3 years in LA, and I feel like I did my time. I made my contacts. And
it's funny when you're in LA and you're like, you're fucking freaking out about everything, and you're like, yeah, but okay, well there's legal weed. And then you smoke, then you're high, and then you're like paranoid about everything else, where you're like, fuck, man, career's fucked up, but also at any moment the earth could just start shaking.
Immediately, bro.
You know what I mean? It's like, what am I doing? Everything's fucking weird here, man.
Oh, palm trees.
Yeah. And then then you find out like, wait, these aren't naturally grown here? They're imported from Florida and planted? Did you know that?
So like that I did not know, but you, Sean, and Caitlin, I guess, so you came from, because you're not from New York.
No, New Orleans.
So you're like Mark Norman.
Yeah.
So you came from New Orleans to New York and then to LA, right? That was kind of your move?
No, I went New Orleans, LA for a year.
Oh my God.
Then New York for 3.5 years, then LA for 4, and then back in New York now for 5. So, and I just bounce back and forth, man. I mean, but New York and LA, there are. If you're in the entertainment business, you're going to spend so much fucking time in both of them that in ways they start to feel like the same place.
But they're not.
They're definitely not. But there are times, like I've been in a car in New York, like in an Uber or something, like, and in my head, I'm like plugging in addresses that are in LA, where I'm like, oh wait, fuck, what am I doing?
I've done the same thing, bro. I've been in LA thinking about how I'm going to get to another spot, and I'm start thinking about what trains I could take. Like, oh fuck! And even though there are trains in LA, it's not like here where like, oh, I can't hop on the queue because I'm in fucking Silver Lake, you know. But dude, I've taken the metro in LA. Have you taken the metro?
Many times. It's great if you're going to downtown.
But I don't know why I had this fear of like another comic seeing me, or like a booker on the subway. You know, like. I was always a worry of mine. Like, I hope another comic doesn't see me taking the subway.
That's so funny.
That is funny because I feel that way on the New York subway just because I don't like talking to people in transit.
Did you ever take the bus in LA?
I have taken a bus in LA, but only to get out to Santa Monica because it's just such a goddamn long drive there and back. And the thing about LA that is with public transport is like, you've got a thriving hobo community in LA, and like it's bad. Like, it's like, hey, mental health professionals, move to Southern California. There's plenty for you to do. There's plenty for you to do.
It's true. It's true, man.
Yeah, you get on the buses there. It's sort of like every person that gets on, it's like, oh, is this crazy or eccentric? We're gonna find out real soon. And then like 14, 15 minutes later, like, okay, they haven't had an outburst. We're good. And then the next person gets on, you're like, oh, this guy looks normal. He's got a tie on. And then as soon as he sits down, he's just like, I check. But no, I don't fire people. I don't fire people. I eat souls. And you're like, ah, there's no way to tell.
It's the weather. It's the weather, bro. And then like, you wonder how many of those people are just lost souls that didn't make it.
Yeah.
Guys that went there to act or be comedians, and these are the guys that didn't. You know, you wonder what the stories are. Like, man, maybe this guy was like me 10 years ago or 20 years ago, and he was like, I'm gonna make it out there, and then
Dude, I blame it all on the weather. The weather's too nice at a certain point to function, because you just start because you could feel yourself out there being like, man, I know I got to work on stuff today, but it's so nice outside. And then you're outside all day, and then you're like, people will be at a job and be like, fuck, I know I'm supposed to go to work, but fuck it, it's so nice, I'm just gonna quit. And then it's like, you got to pay rent, you don't, and you get evicted. You're like, I need a place to live, but it's so nice out. Why should I look for a place to live? I can just be outside. Like, I think a lot of those people are just like, fuck it, I'll just live on the streets for a while. It's so the weather's perfect, and then 10 years later.
Because here's my theory.
There they are.
Here's my theory, Sean and Caitlin.
Yeah.
So LA is a lot of waiting.
All waiting.
It's a lot of waiting. You're waiting for the audition. You're waiting for the call. You're waiting for the spot. It's a lot of waiting.
Yeah.
And you start to get better at waiting. At first, it's grueling, right? Then you get better at it. And then you're able to wait 2 weeks. You're able to wait 3 weeks. You're able to wait 4 weeks. And then I think what happens is like a year goes by and you're still waiting, and you end up becoming you're just on the street. You're like, I know they're gonna call. They're calling. They're gonna call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's funny enough, but that's why, like, whenever you hear stories about people seeing homeless people with phones, it's like, yeah, they probably still they kept their line, like they kept their number,
just in case they call, just in case that call comes in.
Yes.
Which, speaking of that call, like, so Tommy, the show, it's really quickly. So like you're playing a detective, right?
I play a detective. His name is Abner Diaz, and the show was canceled, unfortunately.
Fuck.
Yeah, a lot of variables for that, man. A lot of it's COVID, the pandemic, the cost of the show, but
you learned a lot there, I imagine.
Made a lot of great friends, and it's disappointing. Anytime that happens, it's disappointing because you think like, oh my God, we can do this for 7 seasons,
Yeah.
And I'll have some close friends, and I've always dreamed of like I'm always, whenever I saw a show like The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air or name any show, Seinfeld, whatever it was, I was like, man, I'm sure by season 3 or 4, I know they have their issues, but there must be like a family.
Yeah.
Like they must be like, and I've always wanted that, to have like a crew that like you can have ups and downs. As long as you guys are getting a check, you guys remain.
Yeah. You can really tell when the writing staff and the actors get along. It shines. Man. And you have so much more fun watching the show, and it looks like a ton of fun to be part of.
To explain to someone how beautiful it is to have a show on the air, good or bad, whatever you think it is, right? And you and your coworkers are watching it. You guys work together on this, and the cinematographer, and then it airs. And it's like a shared thing. And it's like, man, we're gonna try to make it better next week or whatever it is.
Right.
I miss that so much, man. It's like it's to me, it's like one of the peak joys of our business.
I mean, it's because I've never watched an episode of Tommy, but I've watched so many clips and seen so many like, goddamn, Vlad does fit in like that police procedural. Like look that like wearing a suit. It's not a black suit, but it's like a sort of like a muted thrush. Yeah. And it's like you're wearing like a fake gun, and a holster. It's like
that's
Vlad.
Right.
Vlad fits real well into this role. And you got to work with Edie Falco, which I think is fucking badass.
Work with Edie Falco, and dude, I was voted best dressed man on prime time.
Whoa.
What, really?
Yeah. For the 2020 season, by the New York Post.
That's
I'm telling you, dude.
I got to work with Edie Falco, man, and then the pandemic hit, bro. So it was like, you had this momentum. You're moving. All good things, and you guys know, you've been in the business for a while. Like you bust your butt every year, sweating, hoping, praying, getting the call back, then not getting it, getting this close, but then not getting it, getting the pilot, but then it doesn't air. So to have, and then COVID hit, and it's just like everything's on pause.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, it's still March, and
I
don't know what's happening. Yeah, it's weird because like COVID hits, and we like for a while I felt like there was so much loss of just like plans, but you weren't really allowed to mourn the loss of those things because people were dying and like the world was going to shit.
Mm-hmm.
So we all just sort of shut up and didn't, play our little tiny violins.
How do you guys feel? I want to ask you guys this. How do you guys feel every morning you wake up? How do you feel about being in a good mood? Do you feel guilty about that? Do you keep it private? Like if someone says, how you doing? Not that good, but inside you're having a good day. But you keep it private because like the world's on fire. So you're like, I can't let anybody know.
I think on the I'm not always in a good mood, but on the days where I am, I think it's important. I think it's important that everybody goes through that. Everybody, it's like I think it's okay to have good days, especially during this shit, man. If you don't let yourself enjoy, just like, hey, it's a Tuesday and it's decent weather and I can take a walk, and not many people around here are going to get up in my shit. I'm going to wear my mask. It's going to be nice. I'll go to a park. My friend's got a rooftop. I'll hang out with them and just talk shit. And that'll be an enjoyable day. I'll go home. I'll support a local business by ordering some fucking just too much Thai food. I'll eat all of it while watching the Michael Jordan documentary again, watching The Last Dance a second time.
You saw it twice?
I started watching it, then kind of like, I think I started watching it and then the protest happened. And like all of my attention was like, what the fuck is going on in the world? And during that time, I do feel like it was like an all hands on deck scenario in those first couple of weeks. So it was just like focus. And then recently I just finished it fully. And I'm like, dude, I don't care that people think he was a bully. I don't care that people think he was crazy because he took shit personally. I love it. It's why he was like, because you watch. Like, I was never a basketball fan growing up. And I've said this so many times since I've seen it. But, like, watching that documentary, you were like, oh, Christ, he was better than everyone else. Like, like insane.
Caitlin, did you watch it, Caitlin?
Yeah, I did. That's why Sean started watching it again, because he caught me in the middle of it. So,
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It was because like I'm not a huge basketball fan now, but I went through a period growing up in LA when like the Lakers were doing really well, and like Kobe was a big star, and I got really into basketball for a while. And then I continued to watch when I lived in Chicago for a while, and then I don't know, I just haven't cared much about.
Well, there were like we're talking to I don't want to name drop, but we were talking to a comedian who was on the show last night who if today's Thursday, but if I were telling you this on a Saturday, it would be quite the weekend update.
It's Michael Che.
Okay, there you go. Whatever. I was trying to anyway. I like dropping hints instead of names, but we were talking.
You know that guy, the guy.
Yeah.
You know that, but we were talking, and Josh Johnson was there too. We were talking about the episode where I forget the guard's name, but I think they were Russell, maybe was the guy's last name. He played for Salt Lake City, maybe, or Utah, and he had one good game against Jordan, and then it got out.
Oh yes.
And it got out in the press that he said "good game" to Michael Jordan, and that got in his head. And so the next game, he just destroyed the guy, and like for the rest of the series. And then you found out later when they asked him about it, they're like, "So what about him saying good game to you motivated you?" And he's like, "Oh, that didn't happen. I made that up." And so many people thought that was like a crazy thing that he like made up this slight, and so that motivated him to fucking just destroy this dude. But I'm like, dude, I do that at almost every comedy show where I'm like, this table hates me. That fucking table hates me, and I got to win them over. Or like, fucking Esty doesn't give a shit. Esty doesn't care that I'm going on. I gotta do great and have a great set. Or like, I do it with audiences all the time. I will determined that the entire audience thinks I'm the worst fucking comedian they've ever seen before I've even gone on stage. So that when I go on stage, my motivation is like, prove them wrong. And so like anytime you've ever seen me have a good set, it's because beforehand I convinced myself that I was the worst, or that the audience thought I was the worst, and I needed to prove them wrong, even though none of them had any fucking clue who I was. So it's I do it all the time.
It's interesting you say that, man, because I'm guilty, or not guilty. I guess guilty is the wrong word because we're not committing a crime, but like I can empathize with that. You have this thing, especially like New York, right? Like,
yeah,
you know, it's like, there's New York. You got to bring it. You know, you got to bring the heat, whatever that means, right? Bring the heat, whatever that means,
right?
Because that's relative. You know, like someone killing in one room could not get a crazy response in another room, could still have a great set.
It's like every audience is a dish, and it requires different amounts of heat to cook it. You know, you don't want to bring barbecue heat to a saute situation, you know, and vice versa. You don't want to just turn the flame on medium high for this big chunk of fucking roast beef. You got to fucking turn it up, you know?
What I loved about The Last Dance was learning about, his name Krause?
Jerry Krause. Yeah.
You know, the GM, Phil Jackson, like watching the back office, front office. I'm always confused. What's the back office? What's the front office? Does anybody know what the front office is versus the back office?
No.
I think the front office is the GM and like the more the GMs and whatnot. And I think the back office is just like fucking secretaries and assistants and shit. Yeah.
More like public thing.
More like, yeah.
I get that.
It was just really fascinating to see like those gears working as this team is winning championship after championship and busting them. But like just the mechanics of the business I found fascinating because, you know, so much of it is focuses on Michael Jordan. It's like Jordan. And the battle to get Phil Jackson in there, you know, they had to get Scotty, and they got Kukoc. Like those politics to me are just fascinating. How they got Robin in there. So which brings my next question, which is, as great as Jordan is, and as fascinating as he is, as dominating as he is, in watching those conversations with the front office, it also makes you learn about how much of it is just pure luck.
Yeah.
The variables that go into place to make a championship team.
Yeah.
You think about Dennis Rodman, you think about Scottie Pippen, you think about John Paxson, you think about like those things for Jordan not to get injured.
Steve
the way he
Kerr.
was playing.
Steve Kerr hitting that shot. Yeah.
Dude, and that's what makes it so special, right? It's like this is a 1 in a million team.
Yeah.
It is true. It is true. Like hard work, preparation, being the best, all the shit. It doesn't matter if it's not that over that decade, those six players that all played for the team at some point. That coach. Yeah, it's like you're right. It reminds you that as much as you can prepare, you can never control. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Exactly, bro.
Yeah.
And to me, that sucks. Yeah. Because to me, that sucks, bro. Because we're because the media just focuses on it's almost like a survivorship bias, right? We just focus on the guys that made it.
Right.
Jordan, LeBron.
Right.
You know how many guys are like that just kind of
KD, yeah.
Just pay their bills. There's guys in the middle of the road that just pay their bills. They ride that bench.
Dude, I went to high school. Well, not the same high school, but I was in high school in the same two different high schools, same city, same time as Chris Duhon, who played for the Bulls, and then he played for I think the Knicks, and I think now he's a coach at Duke, right? But he like played professional basketball. But I remember like growing up, all you heard about was that dude, and like how he like walked on water, how fucking amazing he was at basketball. And then he got in the pros, and he like had a career, but you know most people have never heard of him. But he was one of those guys that you're talking about. He was just fucking showing up to work, and it just so happened that his work would be every night would consist of 15 to 16 minutes on a court. You know what I mean? Defense mainly, probably.
Right. And this kid was like gifted, right? This kid was like the guy. He was like,
yeah. I mean, there's a I forget the fucking guy's name, but he's he's a guy who he runs the Improv in Denver, and he played
Phil.
Right, he played basketball in what? In China? Did he play basketball?
He played overseas. Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Phil, and he played, and he was like, but he was like that guy's giant. That's a massive human being. That guy's like 7'2". But he would talk about how like he could beat anyone like just like in a pickup game. He's like, yeah, I'll fucking walk up to any game. If I'm driving by a game, if I wanted to stop and just get out of the car, I'd go beat them all. But he's like, but then you get in a league, even in the fucking Chinese league, there's 20 guys better than me. You know, it's like crazy. It's just like the levels of how good you have to be just to get into a professional sports league. And then once you're in, then there's the guys like a Jordan or like a fucking names you don't even like. I was way late to learn about Kyrie Irving.
Right.
And by the time I learned about who, it's like, oh, this guy's also amazing and everyone loves him and, you know, got his own style on the court. It's like, there's players you don't even know that are still great.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, there were guys on the Bulls team who were amazing at compromise.
Yeah.
You know, but what we celebrate is the domination.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm sure, like, if you could find some stories, like I remember it was during practice one day, and you know, Steve didn't have his sneakers. His sneakers had broken something, and John said, "Hey, here are my sneakers."
Yeah.
You know, like no one.
Yeah.
Those,
the friendship.
Those stories are buried. No one.
Yeah.
It's also funny because when you were watching it, you look at Steve Kerr, you're like, God, look at this fucking shrimp. And then you're like, oh wait, he's 6'2". He's
6'2".
5 inches taller than me, but he looks like he looks like an infant compared to all those
compared
giants.
to all those giants, man. I love that documentary. It was so good, man.
It was
yeah.
very well done.
Wait,
It was so well done.
Speaking of well done, we got to get to something here.
Yes, we
Let's
do.
do it, baby.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
all right, so Vlad, we asked for your words. You sent them to me. They are bag, parent, car, cool, and hot.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what I think your story is. And Caitlin and I decided. Do you want to take this? You want me to take it, Caitlin?
I can start it.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, so here's what we think the story is. You, when you were in your younger years, to make some money, you worked as a grocery bagger. So every day you'd show up bagging groceries, and this one time, this customer who's very frazzled, talking about her kids the whole time, like can't get all her bags together. It's just like, can you help me bring these bags to my car? And you're like, yeah, okay, it's a slow day. I'll help you bring the bags to your car. So you go to her car, you put the bags in, and she shoves you into the car and kidnaps you and locks the doors. And then what happens? Sean, take it away.
Well, I'm thinking at that point, Vlad, you know, he's a cool fucking customer. You know, this is even a young Vlad had a very, very level head about him. You know, before pre-comedy Vlad, you know, being filmed in a suit with rubber gloves on a riverbank with a cup of coffee as a cop in a procedural Vlad, you know, still a cool customer. He's like, lady, what are you doing? She's like, I'm kidnapping you. You're like, kidnapping me? I'm a fucking adult. What are you doing? I'm 17 years old. And she's like, yeah, and you're fucking cool and you're hot. And these are two things I want in a partner to help raise my kid. And you're like, all right, so she's a parent. So you're kidnapping me to help raise your kid? And you're so blown away by this that you're like, fuck it. How old's your kid? Maybe I can help. And she's like, I don't know. I don't have one yet. I also want you to be the father. And you're like, all right, this fucking woman's out of her goddamn mind. But you're like, all right, I'll father your kid. So you get back to your house, you hit it. And then afterward, and then you wait till afterwards to tell her, by the way, I shoot blanks. I can't get you pregnant. But thanks. I mean, you did kidnap me. I feel like it's only fair that I got some ass out of it. Anyway, thank you. I could just catch the train back, and you left, and you never told anyone about it till now.
Yeah, and that's the story.
That's what we think.
I am so happy that you guys were so far left.
Yeah, we went.
Yeah. Well, what's the real story?
Yeah, I think when I say the real story, you're gonna be like, "Oh my God!" So my father, and you may have heard this joke, Sean. I don't know if you heard it, but I do different versions of it depending on the night, which is interesting too, right? How jokes change depending on the audience. Like,
of course,
it's crazy to me. Like,
they have
this
to.
night, it's nuts.
Yeah.
So my father, when I was growing up, he used to love black garbage bags. That's the
black
bags.
Garbage bags?
Black garbage bags. That was his jam, bro. That was a raincoat. That was a curtain.
Oh, I was like, I get like for multi-purpose.
Multi-purpose, man. He used that for everything.
Yeah. I thought you just meant he just would buy a bag of Hefty and be like, this is fucking art. Vlad, sit down. This is art. This is the best thing.
And he thought it was cool.
Right.
He's like, this is cool. I could use this thing for so many things. This is cool.
I understand
And
that.
so one time they broke my father's car window. This is the 90s in New York, and they would I don't know if you remember, but they used to have these like car radios that you could detach.
Oh yeah, you pull the whole thing out.
Pull them off.
Yeah.
So my father had the version where it was just a radio, like he didn't upgrade to the detachable one. Because the reason they made the detachable ones is because you could take it with you, and this way someone couldn't rob your radio.
The Blaupunkt, I think they called it, something like that. Yeah.
So they broke this window, took the radio, if I remember correctly. And the next morning we get up and he's like, "Oh my God, they broke my window to get into my car." So I go, "That's crazy, Dad." So I go outside and he's got a black garbage bag taped over the window to replace it. And he was like so cool about it. He was like, "You see, it looks like a tinte window. You see?" And he thought this was cool. There was duct tape on the goddamn thing. So we go for a ride. And Sean, as you know, plastic holds heat, bro. I mean, the car was hot. It was sweltering, bro. And like,
yeah.
you know, so that's like where this cool hot bag parent.
Right.
That's where the name.
I love the idea that your dad was so he loved plastic trash bags so much, and he was like, "I'm showing the whole neighborhood how to fucking do that. I'm stepping out right now."
But this is the crazy part, Sean. And I wonder if you guys suffer from this. See, his creativity didn't have shame. His creativity was like, this black garbage bag is this black garbage bag is that, this black garbage bag is this. Yeah. Like, he didn't have a label as garbage bag. He saw it as material. This is material that can be reused.
Yeah.
Me, I have a sense of shame before I get creative. Oh, no, a garbage bag? Come on, man. You know, and I think we've lost something in our generation, Sean and Caitlin, is that before we get creative, it has to have some kind of a lure. You know, it has to go through a round of angel investors. It has to, you know, how many followers do you have? You know, it has to have like some kind of cachet before it's deemed creative. My father was like, "Yo, this thing works. I'm using it."
Well, dude, that's actually a great point. Like, it seems like every generation gets more self-aware, which is simultaneously great and awful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And yeah, you're talking about like your dad probably, you know, came up in like the 50s or something. And it's like that there is that era of people who, or before him even, where it was just like, just make something, just make it and talk about it later. And now like you're saying, where it's like, I don't know if I could make, or is it financially viable? And I mean, I could talk about this with comedy, dude. Like when I was coming up, it was about being good. And that was the fucking only goal. And now in New York or LA, where you talk to comics who've been doing comedy for like 2 years, who are talking about spot pay and when they're going to get it and how much do spots pay? And you're like, you are lucky to even get a fucking spot. Why don't you worry about payment? Like that used to annoy me back in the day when people were attacking when spot pay became a thing, where it's like, this show's charging, but they're not paying. And it's like, well, hold the fucking phone here. Some of these fucking people, this is their payment, is getting this stage time to get good. Yeah, maybe the headliner, who is part of the reason why all the people are at the show, yeah, you pay that person. You pay the accomplished. There's nuance to it all. And I feel like it's the same thing with what you're talking about with like creativity, where it's like so many people, the moment you have an idea, start thinking branding, start thinking marketability, start thinking packaging. And it's like, what about the idea? What about making the thing great first and letting everything else come once you see what you have?
Distribution. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It feels like Mel Brooks's producers.
It's just
you know, but you bring up a good point though, man. The bandwidth, it feels like to me, and maybe because we're longer in it, that the barrier of entry is a lot shorter now. You know.
Oh yeah, dude. People are starting, like, I don't know if it was like this for you, but when I started, it was like the idea of like making it one day and like doing it professionally was like, I remember, I distinctly remember, I'll get to that thought eventually. Right now, I just got to be good. Like, I remember thinking, I've got to be funny enough and good enough at stand-up to where I can then have those thoughts to myself about like, okay, now how do I make it? Whereas I feel like, how do I succeed? Whereas I feel like now it's just people who are right away just like, I think I'm like a Vlad Caamaño, Andrew Schultz hybrid. You know what I mean? Like, you've got people who think and say shit like that. Like, I don't know, like, I'm like a Funches, like a white Funches. Or like, I'm gonna be like I'm like Maria Bamford, but just sort of like sexier. Like, you've got people like, I've never heard someone say that, but I guarantee there are conversations among comedians now where they're not riffing with each other. They're not trying to make each other laugh. They're convincing each other how they're gonna market themselves.
It's wild because
like, what are you talking about? Yeah.
What you're saying is the equivalent of a TV pitch. Like, so how do you see your show?
Oh yeah.
This is a cross between Martin and everybody hates Chris. And it's like, you as a stand-up, like, I don't know. It's always this thing of like, who are you, right? Like, who am I? Who am I? Who am I when I get on the stage? That's always the question. Who the hell am I?
Yeah.
Like, I have no idea, dude. I have no clue.
I think I'm like a Bill Hicks, but like a funner Bill Hicks. Like, I'm like a Bill Hicks, but like a mixed with like a Stephen Wright. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like what?
Hot David Spade. It's like,
is that what you think you are, Caitlin?
Yeah,
like, I'm a hot David Spade.
I'm a hot David Spade.
I never understood that.
Because like what Vlad was saying, like every generation becomes more self-aware, and it's good and bad in ways of this kind of thing too. Where it's like,
I mean, think about it, bro. Like, even, and listen, there are instances where you can make the case for the PC culture. There are instances where you're like, yo,
sure,
dude, that was out of bounds. But
sure,
to compare it to my dad's point, like, if you put a product, like my father put a black garbage bag out, right?
right.
You put that product out in the market. Everyone's talking about safety. Our kid's gonna swallow this. That's what's happening to us now. It's like,
yeah,
anything creative is like, it has to go through this huge filter of safety regulations. Does it check this? Does it check that? Is it checked? And then you got to do focus groups.
right.
What do the focus groups say? And then it gets out to market. That's what it feels like now. It's like,
yeah, I feel like political correctness and non-political correctness are the same in the sense that they're like bacon. Like, they should be added to a dish, but should never be the main fucking thing. You know what I mean? Like, you got to have eggs, you got to have hash browns, you got to have bread, lettuce, tomato, mayonnaise. You can't just have straight bacon all the time, or you will fucking die. It's terrible for you. You know what I mean? Like, and when added to a situation, it could be like, okay, you're right. Maybe tone down the language a little bit, but at the same time, no, you should say that. It will make people feel weird, but that's the intent, so that they start to think about things. Like, you need both sides of that, just like you need bacon, but not a goddamn plate of it.
Yeah, and it's crazy that we got to talk in metaphors. That's how crazy it is now. Like, we got to compare it to bacon. We got to compare it to,
I mean, I do this too much. I compare everything to bacon. It's bad.
Yo, my fiance and I, we made bacon in an air fryer.
Oh, nice.
Game changer?
Caitlin, Sean, we definitely overcooked it. It was the driest bacon we've ever had in our lives, bro.
Oh, yeah. It's like, like cardboard.
It tastes like fried air. Like, if you had to take air and fry it, that's what it tasted like. It fried oxygen.
Oh, no.
I mean,
I was just craving bacon, and now I'm not anymore. So.
Man, it was, and we ate it. We ate it. But we're learning because everyone's raving about the air fryer. Everybody's like, oh my God, the air fryer. We got one. We're like, oh, the air fryer. It takes there's a learning curve. You gotta know your way around that machine. You can't just put anything in there and get.
See, that's why I still miss the George Foreman grill. Like, that thing was amazing.
God, bro.
You could put anything in there.
Bro,
anything.
I would show people the grease to show how healthy I am. Like, I'd be like, yo, look at the grease I'm not eating. You see this?
I would dip. Sometimes I would dip shit in that grease.
No.
I didn't give a fuck.
All right, I think it's time to wrap this up.
All right, so before I start confessing the things,
egregious.
Oh shit, we're bordering on egregious. All right, Vlad. So where can people find you on the socials?
They can find me at Laughing Vlad, LaughingVlad, VLAD. That's my Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. My social security number. Everything is Laughing Vlad.
Just take every letter of Laughing Vlad and equate it to the number, and you'll have the number of the alphabet. So everyone listening, check out Vladimir Caamaño. You do have arguably one of the coolest names on earth. But
thank you, brother. Appreciate it. It has flair. It has flair.
Oh, it's got a lot of flair. But Vlad's always been one of my favorite comedians to not only watch but to be around.
Likewise, brother. Likewise, man.
See Vlad, devour his shit. Watch the short-lived show, Tommy. There'll be another one. There'll be another you. It's a combination of you in a suit, early morning wind, plastic gloves, coffee, and a dead body. You put that together, and you saying something like wisecracking, like one detective being like, well, the body's clearly been here for too long. What's the media doing here? And you're like, I think the media was here first. You know, I think they knew about the body before we did. Coffee, and bam, and just look in the camera. Vlad.
10 seasons, Dick Wolf.
Yeah, exactly. All right, man. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it.
Stay healthy, brother.
Talk soon, guys. Thank you.
Later.
For a city that never sleeps, pretty quiet now. You know this city will break you down and then build you back up in its image. Or at least that's what a homeless man in a tutu told me once on St. Mark's Avenue. He then started skipping away while operatically singing just the word fart. He was like fart, 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 and he was actually pretty good. Never thought I'd say it, but I miss the dance crews and mariachi bands on the subway. Never thought I'd say it, but I miss the conductor announcements that no one ever understands on the subway. Yeah, I miss those subway moments, like I once saw two big poets enter into the same subway car but from opposite sides, and they locked eyes, and it was very clear that they were rivals and they should not be in the same subway car. And then they had a rap battle on the subway. Unplanned beat poet rap battle on the subway. And I still think about that rat that ran directly into my foot and then looked at me like, fuck you, I'm walking here. Where did that rat have to go? Well, I guess we'll never know, but I hope it was pears, and he's a very successful chef at this point. What I'm trying to say in my roundabout way is I miss you, New York. Oh, I miss you, New York. I miss you, New York, but I'm still here. But I'd rather be here than anywhere.